needs a place to call home, a place that's safe and nurturing and gives them lots of love. Unfortunately, a number of youth across the city are without a caring family and live outside of their birth homes. How did they get there, and what's being done about it? All this and more on today's show. This is what I wish you knew about foster care. Hello everyone, my name is Torrin Cooper. Welcome to I Wish You Knew. About 1,000 district youth are currently living outside of their birth homes. 75% come from Ward 7 and 8, and about 89% are African American. But no matter what the numbers are, all youth deserve to grow up in a secure and loving environment. Today, we'll chat with one organization that's making it all possible. Here to tell you what they wish you knew are
Pauline Rosemore.
Hey, I'm Waynika Walls.
Hi, I'm Sarah Qureshi.
And I'm Serena Carter.
Today we're joined by two very special guests, Ms. Sarah Qureshi, Administrator over the Office of Youth Empowerment, and Ms. Pauline Rosemore, a Staff Sergeant in the U.S. Air Force Reserves and a former care receiver. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Ms. Sarah, I want to direct this question to you first. What is foster care and how do children get to foster care?
Sure. Foster care is actually meant to be a temporary, we call it safe haven. If there's something going on in your family life or your home that puts a child at risk of harm, and there's no other option to keep a young person safe, we bring them into foster care and are meant to give them a temporary home while we help a family mitigate whatever issue brought them into care in the first place.
So does the family reach out to the foster care system, or does the care providers reach out to the family, or how does that work?
Sure. Sometimes families reach out to us, but unfortunately by the time we get a call, the foster care system, it's usually because a situation has gotten so bad that somebody else has noticed it and reaches out to us because of concern for a young person.
So maybe teachers and school administrators might reach out to you all.
Absolutely. Concerned neighbors, family friends, family members.
Pauline, can you tell us how you got to care?
Yeah, actually, I was born in New York, and my parents, they were on cocaine. And so as a result of that, at 4 years old, they tried to come in and take us, but there's 7 of us, understand? So they were unsuccessful. But then the second time we were at school, and they tricked us and said, hey, someone's waiting for you. And, they pulled us out. All of a sudden, we were in a car, and we were on our way to Manhattan. And there were social workers and other people that were there, and we were all separated. So they tried their best to keep, at least 2 and 2 and 2 and 2, but that didn't really work. So I ended up in Manhattan with my very first foster mom. Her name is Ann Carson, and the rest of them were kind of between, New York is kind of big, so we have different boroughs. So I was there, some in the Bronx, some on Long Island, some in Queens. And I stayed in foster care for about 4 years. So from there, we went to the McMichaels. And while we were there, their family, they had a lot of kids. So because they had a lot of kids, they couldn't keep us. And their goal was to get us adopted. And that family wasn't a good match, and so we moved on. By that time, my sister and I, the one who's 13 months younger than I am, we went ahead and moved on together. And at the final home, we were there for, at least 2-3 years before they finally adopted us. But there was a man and a woman in the house, but we were only adopted by the wife, or at that time, the girlfriend. So it's kind of interesting how that dynamic happened. And I would say that foster care was not, it wasn't a good thing. However, there's nothing about my story that I would change. And I'm just blessed that I was able to stay connected and, reunited with my birth family. And so I still, I know my birth mom, I know my siblings. We may not always talk as often, but it's nice to know that you have people out there who look like you, and you're able to still connect.
Yeah. So Ms. Sarah, So Pauline mentioned adoption. Is adoption separate from foster care? Are children adopted into foster care? How does that work?
Sure. So once a young person comes into foster care, our first goal is always to reunify children with their parents. And if that can happen, our next goal is to immediately get you some permanency, whether it's through guardianship with family members or fictive kin. And if those options don't exist, that's when we open it up for adoption. Or if a young person expresses to us, there is no one else in my life, but I want a family, our recruiters then look for pre-adoptive homes for them.
And the children are actively involved in the search for their own parents?
Well, largely when young people come into foster care, at the onset of the time you come into care, it's a federal law and it's our requirement to make sure you have visits with your parents unless there's a safety issue that makes it so that you can not see them, which is usually rare. Visits can start out supervised and then move on to unsupervised visits, because really the whole goal is to just keep you temporarily and to help your family come back together.
There's more we can say on this topic here, but we have to take a quick break. But first, it's trivia time. What is the name of the Broadway musical and film about an orphan adopted by a rich man but still longs to meet her parents? Stay tuned for the answer. So, what do you guys think? Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. This is such a rich conversation, and Ms. Sarah, I want to direct this question to you. Once children get into care, what are they in need of when they get there? What's the most pressing thing that they're in need of?
Sure, I would say the number one thing is a loving home, family, adults in their lives who really care for them. And that's the number one thing we look for, is how quickly we can get a young person back into a permanent home, if not their own home, into a home that they can call their own.
Okay, and so what are some of the, I would say stigmas or hardships that children in care face, and how do you all help combat that or help push them outside of that?
Sure. I would say if you can imagine yourself leaving your home suddenly and maybe being placed in a new school or a new environment, it would be hard for anybody to fit in. And I would think that really our goal is to help normalize the experience as much as we can, so that you don't feel left out or don't feel like an outsider in a new environment.
Right.
So do the parents who get the child, do they also get counseling if they request it, or if they need extra help, or maybe more understanding or support?
Yeah, foster parents all have foster parent support workers who are available to them all the time, and really are there if they have any questions about what to do or how to handle a situation. And before becoming a foster parent, all foster parents go through extensive foster parent training. So it's not like we're just placing young people into homes where you have never really had an opportunity to think through or ask questions about your experience. We provide as much support as we can to give the foster parent what they need.
Okay.
Has there been instances where certain children, find it harder to adjust than others? And what, tools do you have to help them try to get comfortable in that situation?
Absolutely. I think it depends on the young person. Everybody's needs are different. And that's where it's really important for social workers to spend time to get to know their youth and really try to understand what their needs are, and make sure that the other adults in their lives, whether it's a foster parent, a school, a mentor, really understand those needs so they can best support that young person.
Pauline, did you feel like you had that kind of support while you were in care?
Yeah, I mean, my very first foster care, social worker, she was awesome. I remember her. Her name was Sue. I actually wrote about her in my book. She would come, she would take us out, she would make us feel like, hey, you guys are normal kids. We can go to the playground. It was kind of weird, looking back, it's like, wow, there's this white lady coming to my house every, maybe twice a month. And you know what I mean? It's kind of weird, but
did you really understand that you were in care?
Yeah, I mean, no one looked like you. So it's kind of, you want to, it's one of those things. just imagine, you're the child, you show up at this house, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you start a new school, right? But everyone in the neighborhood knows that those people ain't had no kids, right? So now, like, who are these kids? You know, and people have questions. And as much as you want to say that your peers don't notice, they notice. And so as a child, I was actually bullied because of it, you know? And so back then they would always say, oh, that ain't your real mother, you know, or that ain't your real daddy, you know? And even within the family, those dynamics are there too, because it's like, wait a minute, you just showed up, you're not really my cousin, you know what I mean? Yeah, who are you? Where did you come from? And so that was really, really tough. But I would say that my first foster mom, she decided that even though she couldn't adopt us, you know, she herself is white as well. And even though, you know, back in the 80s, that was forbidden, you know, white people could not adopt black children. And so she decided that she was going to stay in our lives, my life. And then as a result of that, you know, I remember in college, I called her godmom. And from there, she kind of, all of us, all of my siblings, she's had an impact to help us grow. I actually named her godmother of my son, my eldest son. And she's still in my life to this day.
I think that's very important. How far does the support go as far as like reaching out to the schools and to, you know, possible teams? How far does the support go, like all around for the child that's in foster care?
I think we try to cover all facets of a young person's life while also respecting their need to feel normal too.
Okay.
But certainly social workers go to schools. They're trying to really make sure that all aspects of a child's life can only improve but not get worse. And our eyes, our lens is everywhere to be able to provide the support that they need.
So really quickly, can you touch on children with special needs who may be physically or mentally disabled? How are they treated as far as like matching them with families? Is it the same process or?
Well, we definitely have recruiters who look specifically for homes who can support young people who have maybe physical medical needs and need special attention, or who have developmental delays that need special attention. But all of our foster parents, I think, are trained and prepared for the experience and can specify if they want to work with a certain population of young people.
Okay. And how would you say who gets to choose who they work with as far as like the child and the care receiver?
There's a placement matching process. So to the best of our agency's ability, we really try to, especially if it's a young adult, get information from them when they're first coming into care so that we can find a home or a placement that best suits their needs. We try to make sure that you don't leave the school of origin wherever you're going to school, or to try to keep you as close to your neighborhood as possible so it's not a completely foreign environment where you're placed.
Awesome. Thank you all. More conversation when we return. Great. Welcome back to I Wish You Knew. Pauline, let's go to you. Can you share about your experience leaving care or leaving under the supervision of foster care?
I was really blessed because I had my godmother. So I remember just, 18 years old, I went to community college. I was very headstrong, and persevering was the only thing, because my parents, God bless them, but they would say things like, oh, you're not going to be successful, not so much my mother, but I had all of these things with my dad at the time, and I believed them, that I was going to be the same way, and I just knew what I wanted. I'm like, I'm going to go to school, graduated, and so I found I didn't really know who I was then, so I tried to use education, what I was good at, to kind of fill the void. So you go to school, and then you keep going to school, and you have to excel. You can't just do anything. And I made some decisions that weren't probably the wisest. I got married really young. I was 23. And my husband and I, 5 years into the marriage, we got divorced, but then we got remarried again. But I would say that after, foster care, leaving my family, the biggest thing that I learned through all of that experience was the relationships, interpersonally. That is what I believe determines success. Not so much whether or not you have a house, car, this, that, and the third. Those are material things. But how do you feel about yourself? Do you have self-love? How are you able to, intermingle with people? Are you able to have relationships? And so I didn't really do a really great job at that, when I was younger. But obviously with maturity, counseling, lots of therapy, going to school and getting a degree in counseling, right? You begin to see like, oh wait, they're talking about me. But now I can add my own voice and I can speak out for those who are just like me.
You didn't let your past define you. You were able to like come out of not a bad situation, but you were able to better yourself.
Yes, that's exactly it.
That's life. You're supposed to take what you learned, what you went through in your past, and just become a better person, grow, and be strong from it.
Right, and so that's why I said before I would not change anything about my story because it shaped me to who I am today. I wouldn't be the mom that I am. You mentioned I'm in the military, so I'm very like that drill sergeant, but that military stuff didn't come because of my own. My birth father, who passed away in 2003, he was in the Air Force, and so he's a Vietnam War vet. And so because of him, I was like, I want to continue his legacy. So, but the military really gave me the structure that I needed because that's what a lot of us are looking for. We kind of, after you move around a lot, it becomes ingrained in you. You become like in love with this hopping and skipping, no permanence. Oh, if you have friends for more than, let's say, 5 years, you're doing pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, think about it. How many people do you talk to from high school, elementary school? How many people really know who you are? Exactly. Right. So imagine us. There's always a wall. There's always a shield. There's always is this person really here because they want to be here? Do they really like me? But what if they knew the real me? There's always those insecurities, those things. But then, now I'm kind of like, once I began to just share my truth, this is who I am, you have that self-acceptance, and it's like, it no longer nothing you can say. It's like, oh, you have an issue with this thing? I wrote about it. It's in the book. You can read about it. Oh, you have anything to tell me? Oh, I remember when oh yeah, I wrote about that too. So
Sarah, let's ask you, what kind of services or support do you provide for kids who are aging out or approaching that aging out age?
Sure, we actually offer a lot here in DC. We have an education support unit that supports young people with their goals, applying to college, going to college. We do college visits. We help create a financial plan so that you could be on footing to finish in 4 or 5 years, depending on your major. We meet with young people around to plan their professional goals. If you're not going to college, we help design a career path for young people, give them internship opportunities, vocational training opportunities to help build those stepping stones to build a career that they can see some trajectory on when they leave foster care. We have a match savings program, so for every dollar that you put in, we match dollar for dollar.
How long does that last?
Well, we start at age 15 and you can match up until age 21. That money is available to you until you're 25, I believe, and you can use it for educational expenses. Most young people have used it to purchase cars or towards housing. Yeah. So there's resources available. And then we provide aftercare. So when you leave at 21, there's still a support net for you up until age 23. So that you have people that you can go to if you still need support in certain areas. And we also have what we call our rapid housing program. So if you have done things like go to school or you're working and have saved a little money and you're really on footing to be independent, you can apply for rapid housing dollars to subsidize your rent for a couple years when you age out of care.
Awesome. And speaking of foster care children who are successful, Ms. Pauline, she wrote a book about her experience. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the name of the book is Gabriella and Samantha's New Mom, and so it's basically my sister and I'm the brown-skinned one. My sister's the light-skinned one. We're on our way to our final foster home, and this was actually a conversation that we had. We had all these questions about, are we gonna, what's the school gonna be like? What's the family gonna be like? Are they gonna have a pet? And one of the questions, we're city kids, so I remember we got off the highway and we're like, wait a minute, there's no sidewalk. Where are we gonna ride our bikes? 'Cause, you know, in Brooklyn and Manhattan, there's lots and lots of sidewalks. So that was all new to us. And the kind of things that kids actually think about, but it really gets into the meat of the feelings of the child. It's a great introductory tool for those who are curious about foster care or curious, even social workers, to start the conversation with those children. Because they need to understand what's about to happen and to know that, hey, listen, let me validate you. Your feelings matter. And here's a book with a face on it that looks like you. And you can resonate with these two little girls because she is you. And so the question that remains in the book is whether or not these two young ladies are going to be able to find a final home. And you'll have to read the book to find out what happens.
Awesome. So thank you, Pauline, and thank you, Miss Sarah, for joining us. This is a great conversation, and definitely a great topic to continue on. But this is all the time we have for I Wish You Knew. The answer to our trivia question is Annie, right?
Definitely
Annie, the play and the most recently turned film is about an orphan girl who lives a hard knock life but finds a place to call home. Thank you all for your